What is up, everybody? I'm Chris Keefer. Welcome to RacerXOnline.com. Thank you for clicking us, for you guys out there, to choose the right area to get your 2022 bike information. New YZ250F right here. Not a lot of changes for New Year. Yamaha went to a different spoke pattern, which is called a 3-brace cross pattern, to strengthen up the wheel, a lighter hub, a lighter rear sprocket. If you guys remember, if you have older Yamahas, they have that stock Sunstar sprocket that just looks dated. I mean, you can go back to 2002 and your sprocket looks the same. So they updated that, lightened it up, and also suspension changes, valving changes, which is important. Yamaha for 2022 really went to work on trying to balance the bike out on and off throttle. In the past, I've been a little bit hard on the Yamaha because it's a little bit pitchy. It's a little bit soft in the front. You get on the gas, it squats in the rear, and it kind of upsets the cornering balance when you're trying to dive in some of these ruts here at Paris, California. So we're going to give this sucker a try. Going to get back to you guys and give you some information. I have my son here. He's 135 pounds, soaking wet, so he's perfect for a YZ250F, opinion. I'm going to get on it, vet guy opinion, so we're going to cover the bases here. We'll get back to you right away. All right, guys, we are back. Holy mother. YZ250F 2022 edition. I brought my son, Aden Keefer, here. 135 pounds, still pretty small guy. He's getting taller, though, so that's cool. He's not the best tester, so we're going to go back and forth, but I want to get a 15-year-old opinion because, let's face it, the YZ250F, and you look at the demographic of sales, it's younger, anywhere between 15 to 24 years old. So I wanted to get a younger demographic. I'm going to have another vet rider here in a minute. I'm going to get his opinion, but we'll start with Aden. And to give you the rundown on this bike, I didn't mention this at the beginning of this video. They moved from Bridgestone tires to Dunlop MX33s, so that is something to be noted. I wasn't a big fan of the Bridgestone X line. X20s are decent, but I'm glad they went to the 33 line, and for me, that is a little bit better. And they also went to a wider rear rim, so now you're on a 2.15 rim, which you can put a 110 tire on, so that is nice. If you guys watched the 450 video, chain is a little bit lighter, sprocket is a little bit lighter, hub is a little bit lighter, and you have a 3-spoke cross brace pattern now, which, I mean, they say it's for strength, but I don't know. We're going to find that out, right? So I don't feel anything. Another change point is the suspension. So for me, what is it like to ride a YZ250F? You can ride this bike like a little 450. You can short shift. It doesn't really like to be revved out that much. You can roll second gear, shift soon, and get into third gear, and then that third gear can pull you down the straightaway pretty far. But if you can learn how to short shift, which Aden had to today, we'll get to that in a minute, but if you learn how to short shift and ride it and lug it a little bit, this bike will reward you. If you tried to rev it like a KTM, it really doesn't like that. So that's something to be noted for this bike. There is some maps out there. We tried the Keefer Free Feeling map, and then there's a exciting power map that gives it a little bit more mid-range. But the Free Feeling map, what that does, it creates less engine braking, gives it a little bit less pitchy feeling coming into corners. Along with that, having a stiffer valving setup in 2022, that helps balance the bike out. I like that. I am not a 250F guy. I will tell you this right now. I'm a little older. I'm 170 pounds. I like to be lazy, but if I was going to be a 250F guy, this is the bike I think I would want because I can ride it just like my 450. So that being said, son, you come from an orange background. You just went to the Honda intro with me. Yep. You're getting to ride a lot of these different bikes. You have people out there that want to know that's your age, like, what bike should I get? You're not the strongest. You're getting better. You're getting a little bit more beef on him, so he's getting a little bit stronger. But hopping on it today, you originally thought, oh, man, it's a lot of bike. I don't know if I like it as much as the KTM. And then as the day wore on, you started appreciating what it offered. So tell the people what it's like to ride compared to your KTM in the engine department.
Well, I noticed that on a KTM, it's very much of a linear power, where it's just it doesn't have as much bottom as this does. It feels like it pulls, and you can tell like there's some
meat in there in the Yamaha. Where the KTM is more like well, we described that in the Honda intro, was like it's a smoother power and longer. This has more bark, more excitement down low. So he had to learn to short shift, right? So once you started doing that later in the day, did you like that bike?
Honestly, it just depends on what kind of a rider you are. If you're like a guy that's likes to hop bumps and doesn't really charge bumps at all, I feel like a KTM would be most.
A little bit better?
Yeah, a little bit better because light. But like if you're like just a regular
Joe like me?
Yeah, if you're just regular Joe like you, then probably
a little bit lazier power and a little bit more bottom end.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
This would be the bike.
So we tried to put Aden on a Yamaha last year, but he just simply looked a little small and wasn't big enough to ride one. So that is why we purchased another brand. But now that he's getting a little bit bigger, he can kind of see the bigger picture. Yeah, the bigger picture. Good word, son. And then he always says, "Oh, it's a star. I want my bike to sound like a star bike." So he got to ride a Yamaha today. Suspension for me that's the best outlook on this bike is the suspension. It's stock. You're used to air forks. Now you rode a spring fork. What's that like?
It doesn't feel as rigid as a air fork, yeah.
Right. And explain what rigid means. Like, where harsh?
Just harsh and just like stiff and get arm pump within like 3 laps.
So for me, a spring fork feeling has a little bit more movement, a little bit more lean angle traction. Can you corner? And this is a broad term. How does this thing corner compared to a KTM?
Well, at first, honestly, I didn't really like how it cornered. It just felt like it wouldn't stay stable. It wouldn't stay in the rut. But I feel like once the day got on, I got used to it. It cornered pretty good actually compared to a KTM.
So they made a little bit of adjustments for him today. They backed out the high speed a little bit, low speed. They didn't really mess with the fork height that much, but they actually softened the low speed compression because he's 135 pounds. That's the benefit of this bike. It has a wide range. So I'm 170 pounds. Aden's 135 pounds. I have another vet rider that's in between us, and you can get that setting that you want to get the most comfort on the track that you ride. So for me, what we call that in the testing world, you guys heard this before, is track toughness. This bike has a lot of that. So cockpit overall ergonomics of the bike, do you like that feel?
I'll be honest, I didn't really like the cockpit, how it felt. Compared to like a Honda or a KTM, it feels like everything on this just feels like the foot pegs feel too close to the shifter. The bars feel too far forward.
Another key thing for you guys out there, and I don't know if you guys mess with it as much as I do, but I'm kind of a stickler with handlebars and positions and levers and all these things. So I like the bar mount in the rear hole. They come stock, and this has happened the last 2 years with Yamaha. They come stock in the front hole with the mount back. I put the mount in the rear hole closest to you with the mount forward. I like that feeling. I'm 6 foot tall. He's a little bit shorter than me. He prefers that as well. And there is some adjustability there. You guys should try it at home. In case you guys are having a little bit problem cornering this bike, try that bar mount setting. That, for me, I can get into my corners a little bit easier that way. Little things that I appreciate. For me, stock grips are kind of a nightmare at times, but out of all the stock grips that I go through during this production process, the Yamahas are they're not as harsh on my hands. It feels a little fat in my hand, but for me, overall, the grip is nice. And it's just little things, right?
Yeah, the little things matter the most to me, basically.
Do you like the sound of this bike?
Yeah, honestly, this is probably one of the most loudest stock bikes there probably is.
So for me, hopping on this thing, I like this. I can short shift. I can ride it like a 450. You vet guys are going to really like this bike. There's something to be said, being an older guy, having not as much power. underneath you and you're not in the best shape, you can probably ride this bike a lot longer than you can a 450. So it's very rare that you see a 250F that has enough torque to haul us lazy vet riders around. And this is probably one of the only bikes currently right now that has that much torque. So kudos to the guys at Yamaha. And for me, on the suspension side of things, like I said, there's a wide range, 135 pounds to 175 pounds. You can dial that in, which is a huge benefit. There's not a lot of, there's only one other bike that I can think that you can actually do that with currently in 2022. So that is something to be said as well. You don't have to get valving. You don't have to change springs. So that is great. There's adjustability, there's track toughness, and the bike feels like a little miniature 450, which I like. All right, I brought a little added bonus here. Michael Allen, 34 years old, 170 pounds. He comes from more from an off-road background, just started riding moto, consistently in the past couple years or so. He has been in charge of my YZ250F in the past year and a half, and it's one of his favorite bikes. So I'm going to let Michael rip down what he likes about this bike. You're not a 450 fan.
No, let's get real. I'm 34. I'm not fast. I'm an off-road guy. I can ride this bike for a lot longer. I'm not going to rip my arms out like a 450 will. I just feel like it's a very versatile bike. The forks and shock are really good. They can be ridden off-road, even though it's a moto bike. Just overall, I really think it's bad that a lot of older dudes think they have to have a 450. That's a machismo thing or whatever it is. But I think if a lot of them gave a 250 chance, especially this bike, because it can carry a heavier rider, it has a lot more bottom end, I think they would be very surprised at how it worked.
So you've ridden another couple 250Fs. I've letting you borrow them, and he always seems to gravitate toward this. So what is it about this engine that you like the most?
The bottom end is just really good. Like, you come out of a corner and you can be a gear tall, a little bit of clutch work, and you're going. Whereas other brands where you got to do a lot of clutch work to get it up into its the meat of the power, which is higher in the RPMs. Where this you can go from the bottom, and it's just got a lot of torque.
Yeah, so for me, like I said earlier, you can short shift it, it's better. Yamaha did some work to the suspension this year, Mike. You rode the 21 edition in stock form. Could you feel a difference when you got on this?
Yeah, I think overall it just felt like maybe a little more plushness than the past in the initial stroke. And then what I really noticed is the bottom resistance is really, really good. I don't exactly know the technicalities of what they did inside the fork or the shock, but I noticed where if I overjumped something or came up short, where I would normally kind of wince, like I'm going to hit bottom, I didn't have that sensation when I would land on this bike.
Yeah, so for me, it's just a little bit more hold up, a little bit more control. That's what you want when you start going a little bit faster. But yet, the tough part about this, and I've been around a lot of suspension tests, is when you try to get that hold up, right, is trying to remain in that comfortable zone. When you get more hold up, you get a firmer feel, which can relate to harshness on the track. And what you're telling these guys out here is you don't get a lot of that harshness now that we're up a little bit higher in the stroke.
Right. I didn't get that feeling of kind of uneasiness either going into corners or even accelerating out of them. I think some of that is the bigger rear tire as well. There's maybe a little more cushion there, so the square edge bumps are not, you don't feel them as much, the sharpness of them. And I think that maybe
18-inch guy right here, so yeah.
18 and the gummy tire, I'm in.
Okay, so the Yamaha is known, and this is have a lot of emails sent to me, and I watch all of these shootouts that are out there, is the Yamaha doesn't corner the best. It doesn't corner. It needs to corner sharper. You can do this. You can do that to it. When you hop on it, and let's face it, your cornering technique is not pristine.
It's gotten better.
It's getting better. But how does this thing lean into a corner for you?
It's gotten better. So when this bike came out, I was part of the other place that we were, and
Lame place over there.
yeah, it's terrible people. So initially it was a little bit maybe heavier feeling, more girthy feeling, and harder to turn in. And I feel like every year they've slightly gotten better and better and better to where now I honestly don't notice any difference between the other 250s and this 250 in terms of turning into corners. What is ironic that we noticed today is I didn't notice the bars were in the front mount, and I was having a little bit of issue leaning into corners. Bad tester, I know.
Night test riders. They should have known that, and they didn't know that. But I guess, if they cornered, fine for you.
No, it was all right. But then after everything was said and done and we were over here going to do the interview, Aden mentioned it, and I was like, oh, maybe that's a little bit of what I was feeling is it took a little bit more work to get it to lean in.
Yeah, for me, I I like a Dunlop feel, so that could also help too. I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I love an MX33 front tire because I don't. It's not my favorite front tire, but I do appreciate that front tire more than the Bridgestone that they were using last time, so that could help the cornering. And for you guys wondering too, like when you change suspension, that can also help cornering ability. You don't have to have chassis changes so much. You can change the fork, you can change the shock. Those little things just right there can actually help a bike corner. So for me, it's the middle of the road, which I like. I mentioned this in the 450 video. I don't need the sharpest handling motorcycle. I think I'm the type of guy, I like the middle of the road bikes. It does it okay, and it's pretty stable. I'd rather have a little bit more stability than having a sharp cornering machine, because then when I'm going fast, it seems to be a little bit unstable and uneasy for me. I'm getting older. I don't want to swap out.
Right.
I almost crashed today. And I just got on the track, and I was like, I don't want that happening again. So I like to have stability underneath me. This Yamaha has a blend of a little bit of everything.
Right. I think Aden mentioned, I think maybe because he's light, he had a little bit of uneasy feeling entering some corners where it would go side to side. I never had that. Like, I went into a few corners with really big braking bumps, and it just went right through them straight. It never got out of shape or anything. And we made a change to the rear. I felt like it was a little bit choppered out, a little high in the front, low in the back. And we just put a little bit of high-speed compression in, I think eighth of a turn, and it held the rear up a little more, and that helped the front end turning. So maybe that was helping mask the bar position, but I have no problem with this bike turning, and it's very stable at speed.
You guys have been bugging me about shootouts. I didn't do them last year. I think I want to do some this year. So I get a lot of emails sent to me, Keefer, should I buy a Yamaha or something else? But the Yamaha is always in my subject title in my email. Should I buy a YZ250F or should I buy another bike? So I think I'm going to try this one more time. We're going to try to do a little bit different this year, but you're going to see that on racerxonline.com maybe by the end of the year. So we're going to try to bring you more information, give you what bikes do things good, what bikes don't do things that good. So try to cover all bases here over at racerxonline.com. But for the small changes that the 250 made, they are for the better. The muffler?
Muffler.
That's something you would change?
It's
loud.
It's loud, and throughout the day it got a little bit louder. So it makes good power, but I think it could benefit from a little bit quieter exhaust.
Remember that sticker in the back in the day said loud pipes save lives?
They don't save eardrums, though, at all.
They could improve a little bit on the muffler stage. I would agree. It is a little bit raspy sounding. It's a different sound. We've stuck aftermarket mufflers on there, and it totally changes the tone and the note of the bike.
The back pressure of these bikes, or at least the other models years, liked a little bit more back pressure as well.
Yeah, so if you get an insert, if you buy an aftermarket muffler and you get an insert in it, chances are you want to leave that insert even though it might have a screen. This bike seems to like some of that back pressure, so leave that in there. Little things here and there, ergonomically. People always say, oh, Yamahas are built for a bigger guy, but shorter guys get along with this cockpit pretty good. For me, I drop the pegs a little bit, and I like that. You really haven't experienced with that.
No, I feels like home. It sounds really cliche to say, but it feels really comfortable just sitting on it, and it's just always, I go back to it, and it feels like my happy place.
Stock grips. I mention this all the time. People are like, oh, why you talk about grips? I change them anyway, but I like the stock grip on the Yamaha.
I think these are the best stock grips on any bike. Some models come like bonded to the throttle tube. You have to like replace the throttle tube. It's a mess. These are just a good half waffle grip.
Just because they're black, and you might get scared off of that color because when you have a black compound, you think firm. But this stuff's pretty soft. It's not bad. And I guess unless you haven't ridden in 10 years and you get on this, yeah, you're going to get blisters. But I think you're going to get blisters no matter what you have. So overall, Yamaha did a good job. It's appealing. I like the blue rims, so I don't want to see your comments below this video and say, blue rims, I want black. I mean, to me, I like the blue rim. It's a good look. And I like that they did the whole scheme of the bike blue. Even the graphic, I think that's clean. I'm a big clean-looking guy. But Mike's going to ride this thing more. Durability is key. You know, you don't purchase that many bikes. No. And for me, durability is one of the better things when it comes to Yamahas.
Right.
You had this thing for a year. Any problems?
No problems. I think I'd like to hear from readers or subscribers what they would want to see, or maybe they want to test something and they don't want to spend the money on it or whatever. Let us know what you want to see tried, and it'd be cool to help you guys out with that too.
As always, Chris at KeeferInkTesting.com if you guys have any questions. RacerXOnline.com for more videos. You guys want to subscribe, 12 issues, $30. Get some free stuff. I think we pretty much could. Huh?
Come on. I talked to you about getting all I spent the time to give you the right information.
Guy with this
Okay.
monster.
And you forgot the most important part.
What is that?
Radiator louvers are black this year.
Oh, hold on. We're going to move this bike for you. Sorry. So the camera's going to get these black. Oh, you get in here for a second. This is so. Okay, we'll turn it back. All right, here we go. This is not B-roll. This is live, people. This is Travis Preston. Works at R&D at Yamaha. What's your actual title besides CrossFit major?
Testing technician.
Okay, so what was Yamaha's goal for the 2022 YZ250? What was your guys' thought process doing this bike?
Well, I think, it's great to have you guys ride it, get the information, and then, during the year we go to work and try to make it better. And one of the comments was the bike was pitching a little bit. It seems like almost every test rider went stiffer with the compression on the front fork. So we increased the low-speed damping, tried to calm the bike down a little bit, tried to keep it more level.
Yeah, I think that they accomplished that, right? Yeah. So what I mentioned to these guys too, how hard is it to firm up a bike suspension-wise and to remain comfortable? Because that's a tough thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a give and take. It's like when you tend to go firmer, sometimes you can lose comfort. But what I'm really happy with these 22 models, the 450 and the 250, I feel like we've gone just a little bit stiffer. It's not a big change, but I felt like we've retained that Yamaha comfort.
Yeah, so far, yeah, he's a true corporate guy, this guy right here. He wants the monster in the hand. And it's a real monster, people. It's not like a podium monster.
It's been a long day.
Yeah, it's been a long. You have to deal with us all day. Travis Preston, Chris Keefer, Michael Allen, thanks for joining us. We'll see you on the next one.